Bear witness to Ioth Academy. All proceeds in accordance with the design. The design is inexorable.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 21 of Book of Dawn, Ioth Academy. I'm tormented by gnomes. I'll be your game master today. Joining me, we've got Crowan, Leg Day, Lemon Kiwi, and Anacra. How's everyone feeling?
After that, I don't know.
We need help. I need help. I'm in
Hold me,
danger.
I'm scared.
Someone call 911 for some of us.
Yeah, that's why the camera was off right before the break. Don't worry about it. If you're just joining us for the first time, I apologize. We are in the middle of a magic school adventure. Our heroes are in their 5th year of studies. They've just moved on from their younger lodges to the Ring, which is a much larger campus. They've begun advanced courses. They've moved into a new dorm. They've got new housemates. They've got new living arrangements. And a year ago today, a young shadowcaster, Garnet, told the Herald, an infernal entity, that she wanted to meet with the Machine Prince, Anachronous. That meeting is today. And when we join our heroes, it is as Garnet stands within the 5th kingdom of Dream, adrift within the realm of the mind. And a figure has just turned around, as promised, to meet with her. And she was shocked to see the visage of her own classmate, Quan, who's been at the school with her for the last 4.5 years at this point, 3.5 years. But it was not as she knows him. It was changed. Let us set the scene. There's a burning red light all around you, and the sound of machinery clicking and clanging. The inner gearworks of an enormous clock. An engine calculating the precise date and time when the infinite cycle of birth, life, death, and renewal will come to an end. Your classmate has turned to face you with an eerie grin, and a suture on his neck opens, revealing a glowing mechanical eye. Garnet, what do you do?
First, using the advantages that I have on identifying entities and magical creatures, could I just visually try and tell if this is an illusion or who this person is?
Okay. Roll an Arcana check.
With advantage?
Yes, with advantage.
Go. Okay.
21. Well, you're the one who called for this meeting to take place on the plane of Dream. There's no telling what this is. In the dream world, this could be absolutely anything. That's one of the problems. It could be another dreamer who's changed themselves, wrapped themselves in a visage. It could be Quan. It could be an artifact, a slim tendril of the Machine Prince's awareness projected and just having chosen this form. You're in the 5th kingdom and all the rules have changed.
It's probably staring at him, not showing any kind of reaction, just starts with, in common, who are you?
This meeting was ordained 1 year prior. Your request is fulfilled.
So it is you. Do you know who I am?
Yes, your place in the design is preordained.
So this is a dream world that he's controlling right now, or can I do anything in this
So the way
dream
that
world?
dream normally works is normally when you're asleep, your mind projects like a bubble into the infinite expanse of dream, creating a dreamscape. A trained Oniromancer can leave their dreamscape and enter the dream of another, but wherever you go, the world of dream is like the world of the dawn. It reacts to thought and will, but it's deeply connected to the subconscious and unconscious mind, which makes it difficult to control. If you want to try to exert control on your surroundings, it is a flat charisma check.
So he said he does know me. Okay. You know me? Well, what is my name?
You are Garnet. Garnet Tosaka of Rumpa.
Well, I remember you. Wasn't expecting you to know me, and I know a lot about you. And I would start probably... Do you want me to roll a charisma for just a flavor decoration thing?
Depends. If you just want to narrate it, if you're trying to use it for psychological intimidation or whatever, I'll have you roll, but otherwise I'll let you just kind of narrate some scenery.
Okay. So probably would whip up like a chair, like an office-style chair and desk, sit at it, and start having books just start appearing and kind of orbiting around her. Know a lot about you. And all the books are in Infernal. And now she starts speaking in Infernal. Dreamt of what this day would feel like meeting you. Precisely 1,778 dreams, starting from the day that we met. Every single one of them, I kill you in a variety of ways. But today I feel different.
Your count is accurate.
Kind of leans on the desk thinking, well, now that you're here, killing you won't bring them back. In fact, there's a lot I can learn from you, Anachronous.
Again, you are accurate.
So I too think and believe that things past their expiry date, things that have served their purpose, should move on from this world. And there are people at this academy who no longer serve a purpose.
List them.
Well, this school encompasses the most powerful magic users in the world and are governed by the most incompetent people I've ever seen. This school, its students, we have potential that is limited. A potential so great it could change the world. And I have that potential, but I just can't reach it because the people at this school. And I think a potential that could be greatly useful to you. But your infernal friends, they like that mindless murder, but you and I know better. We like order, and the ends justify the means, right?
Correct.
So the first obstacle in our path won't exactly be easy. Untimaler is a powerful anti-mage that has done nothing but watch the school slowly wallow and weaken while accuse its students of being the root of its misery. He makes excuses, he makes mistakes, he's sloppy, and no longer serves a purpose at this school, don't you think?
The Minotaur is an impediment.
I can bring you Untimaler, and someone much better suited will be appointed in his stead.
Your candidate?
Master Elnau has, I think, a lot of potential she can still reach and think will be useful to us.
Acceptable.
Now, once we've proven we can be useful to each other, like to meet again and discuss the next phase of this plan.
Acceptable.
Are you going to wear this face at the school then?
No. It does not suit the design. It is an impediment.
Whatever face you choose at the school, we can't meet, we can't speak, and I don't even want you thinking about this. There are ears everywhere, and including in our minds sometimes, so we shall only meet here in the dream world.
This conveyance is provided through the intervention of another. It passes through that entity's filters. The other has their own agenda. It suits us for now. This is acceptable.
And I probably say a bit louder, kind of looking around. And messenger, if you're here, you keep this quiet too, and I mean from everyone. If you're here.
Now, why would I say a thing that would prevent?
Great. Well, we shall meet again once I figure out how to bring Mahler to you. And then we will discuss the next phase.
Machine Prince, I am only too happy to serve. I intend this. We are watching you, Herald. You will act as go-between. You will not interfere. Of course, I am a humble servant of truth. What greater truth is there than yours, Agnes?
The herald turns to you, and you find yourself standing between these two projected forces. One, ironclad inevitability. The other, a creeping cold that seeps into the bones and saps you of hope. And it's not tension that you feel, but the brief sensation of being almost crushed between two enormous weights. There is a moment of pause, and the herald bows.
Will there be anything else?
Are they looking at me?
Yes.
Will you show me your real face? I know what you look like. What you really look like.
Oh, what's wrong? You don't like this one?
That one's cute on you. I like it for now.
Sorry, that was the herald talking about Anachronous Quan over there.
Gotcha. Sorry, I thought that was Quan talking.
Nah, lots and lots of evil voices going on back and forth.
Ah! Then in response to that, I would say, well, you like the truth? Show your real face.
Okay. Garnet, roll a wisdom saving throw, please.
Fucking what? Okay. That's not great. Any
Holy
luck?
God.
Oh,
Any
Lord. Okay, now feels like a good time to turn all the channel rewards back on. All right, fixed. You should have access to your luck die if you want to spend that.
Yeah, that might be chill if I could
How
do
fast
that.
can you generate a new character, Lemon?
Yeah, I don't know. Give me, a couple minutes.
That's fine. We'll just pan to everybody
Roll
else.
two.
All right, we're gonna.
It's giving disadvantage. Let's try to kill Garnet.
Okay.
Oh my god. The roll I went through.
The face
Before that.
of your classmate twitches erratically, and the chains surrounding the platform on which he stands crack one by one, glowing red hot in the middle and then snapping away. Red light floods from beneath as a hole opens up, revealing the flames of an infernal machine. And the image of Quan plunges into the molten metal. An enormous hand reaches out that I did not get graphics for because I did not expect this question.
Oh my bad.
An enormous mechanical hand, larger than the very platform on which you stand, reaches out through the hole, and then another, as the torso of the machine prince rises before you. An unfathomable column of wheels and pistons and machines, brass and iron and dark steel. It has wings of metal that furl out to obscure the entire horizon. And its face is covered by a solid steel mask. Its head alone is larger than you, and the heat emanating from its body is overwhelming as it looks at you through 1,000 mechanical eyes.
Probably looks up. Not a good time.
Multiple gods.
Perfect time.
We're gonna save the pesky pixies for later, okay?
They were busy drawing new emotes in the channel.
And as Anachronous reveals its true form, its lower half descending into untold depths, all of it ticking and churning, making 1,000 complex calculations through magic and machinery. Its sheer scale is boggling to the mind, and you manage to, a lesser individual with weaker will, someone who had not stared death in the face and tried to look beyond the four kingdoms into the hungry dark, would have crumbled, their mind shattered at the very sight. A lesser would have turned away. You look directly up, not into its eyes, for its entire face is covered in that smooth mask. But you look directly upon its form.
Just as I pictured it. Great.
The Minotaur.
I'll find out a good place for you to decide his fate. Just give me some time.
Is of no concern. The design is inexorable.
Good night, Anachronous. And then shuts eyes, dream
Okay.
end.
Woof. And so it ends. And you wake up, and the scary music stops, and the light goes back to normal. In a moment, though, I'm going to have to stand up for that one. Give me a sec.
That is pretty cool. That's a cool effect.
So
Oh,
technically,
no, you wouldn't believe it. There was a demon here.
technically, this is what, the second Infernal Pact of the campaign, all things considered?
Yeah, you know, everyone gets one. You get a pack. You get a pack. Uh-oh.
Okay. Garnet, you wake up in your new dorm room, which you share with Arianna. Is Arianna fast asleep?
Probably.
Okay. Does
For
she
now.
snore?
No.
Okay.
Or if she does, don't let Athalor know yet.
The following morning, everybody begins their first day of classes. You have a new mess hall to gather in. And the day is going to be marred by some pesky pixies wreaking havoc everywhere.
Oh, God.
In addition,
Behold, an act of God.
Another
can't
one
have a
in
normal
addition to
fifth
what?
year. Can't
Why?
we?
What the Fae? Is this broken? Is this like busted? Why is it
Oh,
always
no,
with
not this again. I'm about to get angry, horny.
Oh man, it's
no.
gonna be a heck of a semester, gang.
Racklor Big Gob still wants his
Five,
boy back.
5 or 6 episodes incoming for year number 5.
Mhm.
All right. Everyone wakes up. It's their first day at the new school. I can actually pull this up, which will be kind of cool.
Ooh.
So I've got the cast looking at a map, but I've also pulled up the World Anvil map for our viewing audience.
Oh.
Your student housing is over here. And I know that these are laid out as large dorms, but I have executively decreed that the map is not accurate and that these are actually like individual rooms, as I previously said. So you've got your own double rooms, 2 people per room. You live somewhere probably in this area, though there are some dorms directly next to the Great Hall as well as an option. The Great Hall is over. It's not the Great Hall. It's the refectory. What did I call it? Oh, it's just the Gathering Hall. Yeah. So this is where all the big meals are held. There's a high table if they ever need to do a fancy function or announcement. But essentially, this is the path that you take to get to your food. Let's start with Alyxander and Athalor. Are you roomed in one of these areas? In like the front of the hall?
Athalor would cede this over to Alexander is because it's sort of like they're doing the codex thing and Alex has got clout there. You know what? I'll just allow you to decide where we go and I'll be happy to go along.
All right. Where is Alex telling Codex gang to hang out?
So I suppose the Codex gang would need a place where they just gather on their own. Which, oh boy. Well, it's somewhere where to be close to that. I don't know exactly what place that would be yet, though. I assume one of like the classrooms, maybe. I don't know.
Are there any ones on the elevated levels?
Let's take a look. On the second floor,
Any
no
ego rooms?
housing. On the third floor, no housing. Aside from like the faculty caretaker housing, which is up in the tower. I haven't decided what to do with the crypts because they're no longer being used as crypts yet. I think that deepest dungeon area has been reclaimed.
Nah, we're gonna need those when Garnet gets on her shit, don't you worry.
True.
I mean, back in the day, they were used for crypts, but this place was thoroughly cleansed after Tarsalmore himself disappeared. Please don't ask too many questions. There's a lot of burial niches that are still there. The coffins have all been removed. There's like, but they do the necromancy classes down there, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, all your housing options are on the first floor.
Yeah. Okay. I think the places that are away from the gathering hall, because that seems to have access to more of the rest of the this Tassamore place. So if we need to get to anywhere else really quickly, it's the happy medium. So somewhere within that cluster.
Okay.
For
why don't you pick one of these
locations.
color blocks? We've got pink, red, orange, green, blue, and yellow.
Blue is really close to the staircases, so maybe blue.
All right,
The
Codex
codex color
is trying to get first dibs on this area. All right.
Yeah.
Are Arianna and Garnet down for this as well?
Yeah. Why not?
All right. So Garnet wakes up in the middle of the night after dreaming and meeting with 2 Infernals. Arianna is soundly asleep. Everybody wakes up the next morning for their first day of classes, and all of your classes are accommodated for in Tarsalmore Hall. It's got the teachers sort of move from area to area, and there's more than one teacher that teaches most classes, aside from some of the specialties. So they'll be like, oh, Monday I have to teach this class. I'm the spell matrix teacher, but I teach it on Mondays here and on Tuesdays here, and there's a rotation. But you are going to have the same teachers for the whole year. You've got a whole new batch of classes, and these ones are pretty difficult. There's some pretty challenging ones coming down the pipe. So as the Codex is sitting you all grab the same table when you're eating breakfast. You've got the artificers all hanging out over there. Kilgore, who's not in any of the factions, is sitting on the other end of the table giving you the eyeballs. All sorts of folks gathered around this table, and there's a buzz, there's an energy in the air as everyone digs into their new food and are getting ready to take their first day of classes. Here is what you have on the slate. Spell matrices. These are all like complex classes. Arcane theories and proofs, numerology, and world studies. World studies is the only core class this year that isn't like hard theory and math. This is why I dropped my music minor, because I didn't want to do music theory. It was too much math. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch into classes, but you guys are welcome to stop at any point to just say, hey, I want to grab Alexander while we're in the feast hall, or over the course of breakfast, I want to casually bring up whatever. So feel free to interrupt at any point. Otherwise, we're going to get into some of these classes. Does anybody have anything they want to do before they start hustling and bustling around from place to place?
First order of business, as we're in Tarselmore. So, if we're going to ask anybody, Arianna, how's for food?
It is quite good. Okay, listen, it's not as good, I feel like, as like the fresh fruit and things we got in the grove, but it's good. It's better than the Great Hall. Like, I can't complain. I can't complain.
I'm sure we'll all be very happy then.
I think so. I'm gonna go get seconds.
All right. Arianna steps up from the table and goes to grab seconds. Cryas is poring over a scroll that he's got color-coded and broken down. He's calculating his study times for each of his different classes, estimating the amount of hours each is going to take, considering what extracurriculars he wants to get involved in. He's trying to crunch the math on how he's going to maximize and optimize, min-max his time.
Min-maxer. Filthy min-maxer.
After Arianna comes back from getting seconds, I think Alex would kind of chime up and say, I think you heard I mentioned before I wanted to perhaps do a sort of a codex dueling tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, is
True.
that something that any of you would be interested in either participating or helping within the kind of setup of it?
I'd be happy to help with that. I have quite a bit of time myself doing it, so might as well get involved.
Yeah, a bit of a little legend yourself in the Brooksworth Hall, back in the Great Hall. I'm sure your expertise will lend you.
A slight blush from Athalor.
Hennon is drawing birds on the napkins and mocking up the next version of the flyer for the dueling doubles tournament.
Nice.
Doubles.
Like 2v2?
But that was what you said, right? Was that what you originally said? Or was it 1v1s?
It was, intended to be 1v1s, but there could be a 2v2 category as well. It was intended to be 1v1s.
Okay.
I think the doubles was
That's
me.
pretty cool.
Okay.
It's like Smash tournament. There's like a doubles, a singles.
Well, the moment that you bring that up, Cryas starts saying, if we split our pool, like if we could end up dividing our own target audience amongst itself and siloing, which could cause diminishing returns, especially since we haven't yet gotten established. It may be wiser to keep to a single format until we know that we have a viable model.
Are you planning on
Filthy
serializing
min-maxer.
these?
Filthy min-maxer.
It makes sense. But to give us a bit of time, I didn't want it to rush anything. Maybe towards like after the midterm exams or something, to give us a bit of time to get everything underway.
Good enough time to get the word out there too.
Yeah, true. I mean, Hennon's working on the flyers, and I mean a bit of word of mouth. Just mention it if you think someone might be interested. I wanted to open it up to older students as well. Maybe not the 7th years. I think that might be a bit too much, but perhaps the 6th years could be manageable for some people.
So are we dueling other people? What happens if we lose? Did we get kicked out of the codex?
No. I think if you're already a part of the codex, it's like, and if you want to vie for a better rank, if you do well in the tournament, then it would look favorably upon you. But if you don't do well, then I mean, it would obviously put your rank perhaps in a bit of jeopardy. So at your own risk, if you want to enter and already in the codex.
Well, that's a freebie for me then. Alex?
True. Probably, yeah. Probably a bit of a, I don't know the terminology, but it's very worth it for you, yes.
Yeah, I believe they call it playing with house money.
Pretty much.
Well,
Right.
I'm down to help.
Do we just challenge somebody, or are you gonna? Do we pull names from a hat?
Probably a bit of a bracket, I suppose. Maybe like randomized. Yeah. We get a bunch of signups and just make a bracket.
Oh,
Probably
okay.
have
So
to
we don't get
happen
to pick.
over a couple of days as well. Otherwise,
Mm.
all of us will be completely drained of most magical energy after like 1 or 2 battles.
Yeah, we'd have to space them
True.
out, rounds for every day. Maybe like it's a whole series over the course of like some weekends, or maybe just every day or something. But Garnet, I think that's a good idea. Perhaps once we get past like the preliminary rounds, perhaps then picking your opponent at that stage would be a bit more spicy. It grabs a bit more drama, a bit more intrigue. I like that.
Hey, you can settle the score with someone in a ring where you can't die. I don't know which student wouldn't want to settle something in the arena.
Looking at you, Cryus.
Yeah, that
He's
battle. I want to rematch.
very, very focused on his syllabus right now. Incredibly immersed in it. Definitely not paying attention to that conversation.
No.
Well, the bracket will fall as it may, I suppose.
So it shall.
Just don't make us fight each other, okay? Can you rig it just like a little bit?
True.
We'll see if there could be some controlled variants within there. I can't make any
Okay.
promises, but
And I suppose we need to figure out whether or not Garnet's allowed to bring her military with her.
What?
Good
What do you
point.
mean? My military?
The big shadow and little Una.
mm,
Don't listen to him. They're part of me.
Hmm.
I can't get rid of them. Yeah.
yeah, perhaps I need to think about more rules. I don't know.
Well,
'Cause-
such is the burden of the academics. And some of us can just focus on our classes. Isn't that right, Chris?
I assume we have somebody who's serving the role of tournament organizer.
Yes, I think I'll be the overall organizer.
So would you be exempt from participation since you'll be busy with administrative duties?
Correct. I will not be participating.
Yes, quite.
But the leader not being part of the tournament?
The
One of
leader
the
will be
three-
leading the tournament.
Somebody's got to like
No.
cast it or something.
I mean, I feel like it would be
Surely
bad.
You don't think
if, like-
running commentary over this non-sporting event would add anything whatsoever? That's a ridiculous idea. I'm sorry, Arianna. What were you saying?
Do need commentators. Yes. It would be kind of bad though if the leading members were to participate and kind of get body bagged.
Arianna, how could you think that?
I'm not saying that that's gonna happen. I'm just saying.
Look at how
that-
powerful Alex is.
I
right there,
agree.
Sitting.
I
Even the
agree.
stall is afeard of him.
Hey, I agree. I'm just saying that if let's say like things didn't go well, what if you get paired up against a 6th year and they just know more things than you? That's not
What
gonna
of
look
it? What does
bad.
1 year do?
feel
I
like-
mean, the one I think it's really the 2-year gap that I'm afraid of. That's why probably
That's
the 2
true.
years is not great. But I mean, the 1 year is manageable. But yeah, I think Arianna has a good point. I won't lie, that did cross my mind. If I were to enter and just lost round 1, it would do irreparable damage to the Codex's reputation. But yeah, we'll just avoid that, I think. Unless, I mean, Garnet, did you want to fight one of the scholars? Is that why you brought it
I
up?
think, for the preliminary rounds, if I may suggest to just keep it within our own year, and if we can overcome the challenge, then we would be prepared. Because, we don't want to set anyone up for disaster or humiliation for the Codex, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
I
I
mean,
mean-
for sure, of course.
This year's classes seem pretty intense. I don't really want to be going up against people who know all of this compared to us.
Yeah. Preliminary rounds, perhaps then just the 6 years versus 6 years, and then the best of the best of the best of the 5th years surely can challenge
Arianna,
them.
stop. That's the slogan.
I
Don't
know,
say
I
it
know.
like that. Sounds so sexy.
I
It's
can't,
not a sexy slogan.
I can't help it. It's so funny.
It's
Best of the
fine.
best.
Best of the best.
As this conversation transpires, tiny invisible eyes watch from the high corners of the room, unseen as they stalk our heroes, plotting additional fairy mischief. Big
Oh,
Gob
no.
has his coming.
Any passive perceptions?
Yeah, for invisible.
Any
good.
lookers? Oh, never mind. Never
Any
mind.
lookers?
Yes, invisible. I mentioned invisible.
Oh yeah, true.
All right. Anything else over breakfast? No?
We're good.
I don't think so.
All right. We'll put together the rules, get some signups, get a bracket going, and have that resolved betwixt now and the next episode, I think.
Cool.
So,
I'll fight somebody.
our heroes begin by attending spell theory or spell matrices, which is going to be, let's see, where's a good place to learn spell matrices? Second floor, one of these big old halls, because look at all this space. So after breakfast is over, the enchanted chimes resound through the halls. Everyone tromps up the stairs, across the way, or across the hall, up the stairs, and files into a classroom. Your first class of the day, spell matrices. Now, this is syllabus week, where, you might have to absorb some basic concepts, but a lot of the class time is just going to be taken up by the teacher introducing themselves and explaining the basics and how grading is going to work, and what the projects are going to be, and what the schedules are going to be, and all that stuff. So the first round of classes is going to be relatively easy, but it will pick up pretty quick after that. You meet Ibris Golm, a plainly dressed orc, wearing the white robes of a teacher, but with no additional ornamentation whatsoever. Hair cut short, hair kept neat, well shaven, very plain and simple, deliberately so. It's not just a lack of aesthetic, it is an aesthetic choice. And Ibris introduces you to the Spell Matrices class. Now, all of you, obviously at this point in your 5th year, know what a spell matrix is. The lattice of magical energies and thoughts that bind what would otherwise just be raw, uncontrolled power into a specific effect, a spell, which is what allows us to use magic without constantly blowing everything up or losing control of things. And you've been able to put together some spell matrices. You can cast a handful of first circle spells. But in the upcoming years, you will start to uncover the mysteries of the second circle of magic. And I can tell you that with each rank of spell, the complexity is exponential. What you've begun to understand is only the barest bones minimum. You must gain a complete mastery of the way that you, uniquely you, bind your spells together. You must understand how they fit together. You must think 3 and sometimes more dimensionally. You must master this art so that you have the fundamentals down so you can begin to cast more complex spells. He goes on to explain that much like when you tap into your source of power, that power has to come from somewhere. Then you accumulate that power, and that reserve of power has to be stored somewhere. Then you form that power into a spell matrix. And that has to be kept separate from the just pile of energy that you're holding on to. Because if the two of them mix, it's like crossing electrical wires. It can short circuit the whole thing. So you have to be able to have your pathway to power, your reserve of power, and your spell matrix all as separate things. Some people do all of this within themselves, mind, body, and soul, compartmentalizing themselves, forming the spell perhaps in their mind, gathering the energy within their body. Other people use external objects. This is why spells have verbal, somatic, and material components. These things work together to form the spell matrix, and they're external to you. They offload the work of the spell matrix to gestures and syllables and physical objects, sometimes focus objects, etc. Because that way you're not trying to hold all the power, the raw power and the spell all inside your brain at the same time. I know where Alexander's path to power lies. We've talked about this many times. When he gathers that energy, where does it pool within? Does it pool within him? Does it pool in the air around him, in an object? Where does he gather his reserves of power?
I would say after said door opens within him, within his mind, it probably would pool in the air around him as like kind of like almost like aura, and then tries to manifest it from there to make it into the spell matrix.
All right, so
etc.
So the door is in his mind. The power is sort of in the air around him, which means now there's a downside to that. When you gather that energy in the air around you, it can be perceptible to others. If you contain it within your body, you have to hold back all that strain, but then it's less perceptible to others. This doesn't normally have an in-game effect, but it is something to keep in mind for the magic system. When he forms a spell, where does that spell take shape?
In terms of like within him or like outside of him?
Right, because a spell matrix can be formed outside of you. Whenever you see a spellcaster like drawing runes in the air and there's glowing lights and stuff like that, that's a spellcaster forming the spell matrix outside of themselves.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you've got mind, body, and soul that are three parts of a mortal that can each sustain one piece of spell casting. Spell matrices are often done through physical gestures in the body, but sometimes they're cast out there in the air. So how does Alexander form his spell matrices? Where do they take shape?
Okay, I think, well, if it's around him kind of in the air in the aura, then it would then just take shape around his person, I suppose. We try to influence it that way with certain motions that he would make.
So it's like he surrounds himself in this liquid envelope of power and then adjusts the currents with mental patterns, vocalization, etc., to get it to the form it needs to be, and then releases it.
Yeah.
Cool. Athalor, where does the power... I know his door to power lies somewhere far beyond, in a part of his mind that he doesn't truly understand. Where does that power accumulate, and how does he form his spell matrices?
For Athalor, because he's unsure of a real source of his power, and he's a sorcerer who kind of has like two but one is much more stronger than the other. Him almost feels like it's in his blood, like years and years of like alpha purity. And like just years existing between the planes of reality makes it feel that when power accumulates, it kind of just flows in his blood, and he's almost like bodily a physical vessel for it. And when it comes to spell matrices, Athalor is much more focused within the mind. It's almost as if the neurons themselves are like pathways and labyrinths that would generate a picture sort of if you like looked from above and you could see the pathing in Athalor's mind.
If you did an
like
MRI.
they generated there. Yeah, if you did an MRI, you'd see like the spell matrix formed almost there, just directly in the brain.
Cool. A lot of the classes that you've taken up to this point, like metaphysical education, internal discipline, etc., are to make sure that if you form a matrix in your mind, because even if you don't form it in your mind, you still have to use your brain to like, okay, it's like a complex knot or equation, because they also take different sort of manifestations. Each people understands a spell matrix differently. Somebody who's more of a kinetic learner might understand it as a knot, and this is where the crafts from your first year come in, because everyone shapes spells differently. I would not think of spells as calculations because my brain is not good at math unless it involves money or Dungeons and Dragons. But, for every person, it's going to take a different form, which is where all these things have been leading up to. Garnet's door to power lies somewhere beyond the four kingdoms themselves. Where does that power accumulate for her, and how does she form it into a spell matrix?
So I kind of think of it as like, I don't know if you've watched like Naruto, yeah, whatever, but like think of like kind of like a chakra type of
Mhm.
like there's like gateways and parts of the body, and she kind of learns to just open them and close them and control them,
Mhm.
like as if it were chakra, and more of like she lets it flow out or she closes the door kind of thing.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so her reservoir is physical. It's in the body. That's where
Mhm.
all right. When she weaves it into a spell, where does that spell take shape?
Yeah, I get confused with this question too. I don't know
No
how.
worries. So you've got where the power comes from, which for you is the Hungry Dark. The second stage of making a spell is you have to gather the energy for the spell. So you open the door, then you gather that energy, and you have to hold it all at once. That's why you can only cast level 1 or level 2 spells. A more powerful mage has basically a better mana capacity, right? You can't even gather enough energy to cast the higher level spells right now. Or if you can, it would, tear a hole in the universe. So first you open the pathway. You go from I'm not using magic to I'm opening the door to my power. Then you gather that power somewhere. For some people, it's in their mind or in their body or in their soul. For artificers, it's usually in a physical object. So that power, when she's like charging up the energy for a spell, does that power gather in her body through those different chakra gates that she opens?
Yeah.
Then once you have that formless energy, you have to weave it or shape it into a very precise form to get the spell. And when you shape it like that, you have to keep that delicate magical lattice separate from the reserves of raw power because you don't want it to mess it up. All that raw power would just sort of like, it'd be like pouring water into a computer. It would short circuit it. And that's why when you cast spells, you make gestures and say things. Does she form her spell matrices in her mind then because her body is just charging up with the energy? Does she do her spell casting mentally or how?
Yeah, I think like the raw energy would be like physical, and the matrices would probably be a lot of mind stuff because she has some spells where she doesn't need like verbal or somatic,
Right.
so it wouldn't. So it would probably be like constructed and translated through the mind and then delivered outwardly, I guess. If
Perfect.
that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. So I like this so far. We have one spellcaster who's largely more, it's internal, but it's also in the air around them. And then two who do most of their work through internal mental matrices. Arianna, we haven't talked too much about where her power comes from. Most wizards don't have innate magical power. They learn mental exercises and words and such that allow them to open gates to sources of energy that aren't inherently connected to them. But Arianna's always had this sort of inherent magic to her. Fire and healing life, like fire and plants at the same time, which is not a kind of Pokemon one would expect to encounter.
Nope.
So, where does she accumulate that power when she's charging it up?
I feel like a lot of it just like it goes into her hands.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like how you might tie that into like just the overall world of magic, but I do feel like she can feel like that it's manifesting through her hands.
Okay. And then when she's turning it into a spell, what does she do and where does that spell take shape?
Mostly like in her mind, I feel like she doesn't really have to it's kind of something that comes very naturally to her in terms of like what she wants to do. But it all depends on the application. As we all know, Arianna's not the brightest person. Like in terms of school and things like that, that's just not how she learns. But if you put like a very specific project in front of her or something like that, then she's fine. If it's for a specific purpose, she can figure it out. But if you're trying to teach her something very specific and she doesn't care, that might not come so naturally.
I know that feel. All right. So this class, one of the first things that you do, and not just the first day of class, but like the first week, the first couple of weeks, is Ibris Gulm is trying to figure out, okay, which of you, what's your method? What's your technique? What's your learning style? I have some notes from past teachers. For some reason, these four have these huge files. I'll read those later. But making sure that everybody, because there are some aspects and some principles of magic that are universal. There's a reason why certain words have a magical effect. And there's a reason why certain gestures have a magical effect. They often help focus the mind on particular ideas or particular concepts that are necessary to form a spell matrix. But then, those of you who are doing it mentally, okay, these gestures are to help you tie into this and to help your brain form the complex formula that you have to by using your body to help your brain do the thinking. But not all of you work that way. And so Ibris Golem has to do a lot of, okay, all of you tests, not tests as in pass fail, but tests just to see how your mind works. Presenting you like, okay, what's the craft that you did? Presenting you with visual images and saying, what spell is this? Can you identify this spell based on this glyph, based on this shape, based on this poem? How does your brain work? And after Ibris starts to divide you up into these different categories, then you start doing advanced mental exercises. You're asked to imagine impossible shapes. But it's not as abstract as it was when you took metaphysical education, which was just about stretching your brain to do impossible things so that you would have more space in your head for magic. These are a lot more applied. You learn that magic is divided into 3 circles. The first circle of magic are spells level 1 through 3. And you haven't even mastered that first circle of magic. A mage, someone who's graduated the academy, can cast second circle spells, levels 4, 5, and 6. These spells require a lot more energy, so you have to increase the amount of energy you can hold at once, your reservoir, and you have to be able to form more complicated spell matrices. Some spells require expensive material components. Like the Identify spell requires a pearl. It doesn't eat the pearl, but you have to have a pearl. And that's because that pearl physically becomes part of the spell matrix. It has a symbolic property like pearls of wisdom. It's got physical properties about opalescence that make it a physical anchor for that spell matrix. And as you learn more powerful, more complicated spells, that's why some spells require you to draw a circle on the ground with runes and stuff. What you're doing is you're expanding the size of the spell matrix from just being inside your brain to being your brain, but also it's like adding an external hard drive or a RAM expansion. And the most complicated spells are things that are really don't fit nicely into, oh, one person can cast this. There are spells that require multiple spellcasters working together to assemble a huge spell matrix between all of them. Over time, you're going to expand your mind into what constitutes a spell. Spells are just these little things that we can do. Magic can be bigger than that. But first, in order to do that, you're going to have to think about the sound of one hand clapping while imagining a knot that's tied to itself. This is the kind of heady stuff that you're going to be getting into. And I'm glad that none of us have to do this in the real world. And we just have to be like, yeah, my student knows how to fight and to figure out that stuff.
I know how to stab things.
But yeah, that's the sort of nonsense that you're going to be learning this year to prepare you for more advanced magic. I'd like all 4 of you to roll 1d20, please.
I got the one out of the way, right?
Oh, that's a pretty good 1d20 right there.
19 for Athalor, an 8 for Garnet, 17 for Arianna, and a 2 for Alexander.
Hold, is this for like the class, like how we're doing?
Like, do
This
I get
is-
disadvantage on
This
this?
is
or it's
a
just
roll
flat
of fate.
dice?
Neither inspiration,
okay.
DM roll.
neither
Roll of
inspiration
fate.
nor disadvantage apply to this.
Well,
Okay.
enjoy those
Oh,
pixies, mate.
crap.
Thanks for tanking that.
Wait a minute.
No
I don't think I
problem.
want 17 now.
Alexander,
Yeah.
between first off, how does Alexander take to these spell matrix classes?
Okay, yeah. I actually think that he's really interested by it because while I was thinking about it, while his power does, after it exits the door in his mind, manifest
Mhm.
himself in a kind of aura around him, that's kind of due to it feeling like very overwhelming for him. Like he would
Mhm.
like it to just like be in his mind, but like the power from the messenger is just like it has always been and still remains to be just like a lot to handle. So he has to handle it in
Mhm.
that aura around him. So he wants to try to partly learn how to control it better so that it would be theoretically like less visible if like a very perceptive person came along and tried to see what he was doing with magic stuff. So he's very interested in this class specifically.
Okay, super engaged, super excited. You love to see it. While you are in the washroom between classes, roll a perception check, please.
Oh, they don't get a constitution saving throw when they're in the washroom. I see how it is, gnomes.
Most people don't shit themselves to death.
19. That's not bad at all. And nobody's given you disadvantage yet. So, all right.
Nice,
we'll take it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I like that.
You gotta be kidding me. You can't tell me I don't have pixies in here. There's been so many pixies. Have pixies not shown up yet? Holy crap.
Hey, yo, who's got some royalty-free art for gnomes?
All right. Give me a sec to
Sure.
just pull this stat block. All right. Stealth with advantage because invisible.
Uh-oh.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Ooh.
You think you hear snickering and high-pitched giggling as you're washing your hands.
I mean, Alex does already know from the conversations with his friends and other people that there seems to be fey creatures just getting into the academy just randomly throughout the years. So, but doesn't know quite what to make of it at this point. Does look over.
He sees nothing.
Yeah. Sees nothing. Would probably be a bit more careful, is just like attentive to that spot where he heard the sound and washes his hands, goes to leave, still like kind of looking up at where he heard it.
Okay. As you are stepping away, you feel lightheaded. You feel odd. This bizarre tingling sensation, and your sense of gravity adjusts. Roll a wisdom saving throw.
15.
A 15. All right. The odd sensation warbles over you, then passes.
Oh, then he feels that. He tries to just like rush out of the restroom, just wants to get out of there.
Sus.
bitch.
Rinse
Just
out of
called
the
you a
restroom.
bitch?
I think so.
We're 15 years old now. We're getting into the profanity era of Ioth Academy.
Oh, yeah.
This broadcast is rated for audiences 12 and over.
This is between classes. He'd go and tell his companions, his friends, be like, I think more creatures may have found their way into the academy. I think that bathroom over there by the spell matrices class, wouldn't recommend going into it.
What? Why? What? What?
I was
What?
just kind of weird in there. I heard some little giggling, I couldn't see anything, and then I feel like something tried to like mess with my mind, and I got out of there. It was
it the hag? Starts like getting up from the chair.
I don't know. I didn't sound like, I think, a hag. It was a bit more higher, squeaky, kind of higher pitched. But maybe that, I don't know. Hags could have just made their voice sound like anything. I don't know.
We won't go in there and smell what you've done, will we?
No. We don't all suffer the same afflictions that you do. It would be fine.
I'm just saying, I'd make up something similar.
Good point. Didn't think about that. It's for your benefit. Either way.
Should we go investigate or let the janitor deal with whatever is giggling in there?
Yeah, maybe just let somebody know. Hopefully they'll handle it. I think we have enough on our plates already. My brain is kind of fried just from the first class.
Do you want to alert the caretakers, or?
Alex is leaning towards it unless anyone would say otherwise.
I think we should let the caretakers handle this.
Yeah.
No, no
have we
trouble
felt
for us first, first few days, please.
have we felt any like weird stuff when Fae have been around before that might be like a recognizable aura?
Nope. Now, if you
Nope.
use spells, you could possibly perceive a Fey aura, but their mere presence has not activated any spider senses in the past.
No Peter tingles.
Yeah, I mean, on our way to the next class, should probably tell a caretaker on the way.
All right, you notify one of the caretakers, barring any objections from the rest of the party,
No problems here.
and you carry on your merry way.
Avoiding that bathroom permanently.
Moaning Myrtle's in there.
I'll walk 5 minutes the other way to go to another one. It's not bad.
You proceed onward with the rest of your day. Arcane theories and proofs, as taught by Acacius, a human. Pronouns, he, him. Acacius comes from the coastal chaparral area, has a tied back, long braid, beard, well groomed, well kept, a little bit more rugged overall, boisterous attitude, and teaches arcane theories and proofs, which is complicated. At least spell matrices, yeah, it involves like all these ideas and concepts, but a lot of it is practical. You actually test forming things in your mind. Arcane theories and proofs is about the laws of magic. It's about the flow of magical energy from point A to point B. How much can be conduited through a particular material? Why is it that this energy and this energy are out of alignment? What happens when you do this in a spell? And how can we prove it by calculations? It's an intense class. I'm not going to go into all the details. I will say that Cryas is really good at it, and people who are particularly good at this stuff tend to be better. It's important for high-level magic. It's especially important for, creating magic items, but someday spell research, creating your own spells, tweaking with spells and such, this stuff is going to come in handy. But overall, it's just an academically demanding course. I would like all of you to roll Arcana checks, please. And if you've been given disadvantage, it will apply here. So, Garnet.
What a time to use a lucky dice.
I'll say I know I got inspirations and disadvantages, so what cancels
Do you
out?
want to burn an inspiration to keep your 17?
Yes, please.
Okay, done. And
Done.
that
Guys, can roll
disadvantage is
again.
gone. And legs, you've got disadvantage as well. Are you burning
Yeah,
a lucky
I roll
dice?
with disadvantage, then burn a lucky dice.
Okay. All right, Garnet with a 17, Alexander with a 12, Arianna with a 15, and Athalor with a 16 in the end. This is, again, it's just really, really demanding. There's no tests going on yet this early on, but this class is going to give you homework. This is 100% one of the classes that's going to keep you in the library after hours, filling out word problems, drawing glyphs and runes, and then explaining why this glyph has this element in this arrangement with this element, all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be heavy, heavy course load.
Cool.
Alexander,
So Ariana's gonna fail.
you're doing pretty okay so far. Alexander, this one's giving you a little trouble. What are some possible reasons why this one could be difficult for Alexander? Because he's pretty good at coursework.
Yeah, good at coursework, but this class probably requires, much like myself in school, math was like okay to just kind of skirt by with, but I actually would have to, study and do stuff to have it, retain.
Mhm.
And so it's not like retaining as easily for Alex. I think his brain just doesn't
Mhm.
naturally think about the the proofs in that mathematical, I guess, of a way.
Mhm.
So it gives him a little bit of trouble at first. Hopefully he'll grasp it eventually, but at first it's just like, huh? Like, what does that mean again?
Well, speaking of trouble,
What have you done? Please be good. Please be good. Please be good. Please be good. Not more Fae. Not more Fae.
Get
Not
fucked
more
by
Fae.
Fae.
all
again.
that glitters, lies turn to lead, the truth is ever golden.
Oh, I like that one.
Our team doesn't rely on lies at all for
Yeah,
most of their
we've never made a
existence. They're on the up
deception
and
check yet.
up.
Only tell the truth.
Let's
Smile.
see what this one does.
Smile.
While we're at it, I'd like everybody to roll another d20, please. And this is just another roll of fate.
Bam.
No short
We
straw.
are on it
Oh.
today, boys.
Yeah.
When it comes to the
Jeez.
flat D20s.
Wowie. Wow.
that?
Oh no.
Wow.
Oh no.
High five. Yeah.
There's gonna be another bathroom. It's gonna be off limits.
I think
They're
this is
everywhere, man.
I think this is they've got a feud. It's personal now.
It's always growing.
You didn't come down for the fight in the undercroft. We would have beat the shit out of you.
So short straw.
It's fine.
All right, I'm gonna roll a stealth check with advantage for being invisible.
Oh.
That's gonna beat your passive. Roll a perception check for me.
Sure.
Got this.
Big Gob sends his regards.
Any fears?
Okay. This time, without warning, the pixie squad flits over your head, waiting for they stalk you all day long, waiting for a moment when you're alone.
Just have it out for me.
What is the moment that they find you alone? Last time was in the bathroom. What's this time?
I think is it still like between classes or like?
Yeah, they're not going to
class
strike.
after-
You're not alone during your classes, so they would have
Yeah.
to wait.
Okay, so yeah, after I think Alex would probably at some point be taking a walk throughout this place to try to just start mapping it out. So he'd be alone, just kind of going through the classroom, just kind of peeking and be like, okay, that one's here, that one's there, and noting stuff down, mapping it out.
Okay, roll a map tools check. Cartographer's tools check.
An 8.
It's a slow start.
Yeah.
And roll a Constitution saving throw.
There's a wall
No,
here.
a wisdom.
Oh damn, that roll's so
reroll.
large too.
14.
All right, that same weird, creepy, almost slimy sensation passes over you.
Damn it!
Big Gob's gonna be.
Did I hear that?
Yes.
Damn it out loud. Just look around and say, who's there? What are you doing?
This is your conscience speaking.
I'm fairly certain that's not my conscience speaking.
I haven't talked to you for a very long time because it didn't seem like you cared.
What does that even mean? What?
But your wicked, bad behavior has gone on long enough.
I didn't do anything. What are you?
You know your sins!
But do you know my sins?
Yes, they are too many to count.
You might be right about that one, but I'm gonna say you're wrong.
Well, I'm gonna say you're a newt.
Roll another wisdom saving throw, please.
All right. Oh, 23.
Dude. Wisdom for days.
This little pig won't even let us turn him into a newt. We all three of us. And it's just all these mortals. Ah!
I think at realizing that whatever things that these are not successful, Alex would, while still being very perplexed by the whole situation, be a bit more confident and say, well, clearly what you're doing isn't working, so you should go bother someone else.
Roll a persuasion check, please.
Okay. 23.
Yeah, I'm bored. Let's go annoy that centaur I saw earlier.
And they flit off invisibly.
Okay. Oh. Alex ceases work on this map making for now and goes back to the dorms.
You walk into the common area where your three closest friends are just in the middle of studying, having gone through this experience.
Alex just big sigh, sits down, just kind of rubbing his temples.
How did the map go?
We will have to make more progress on that another time. these things that I was talking about in the bathroom earlier apparently still had a bit of a bone to pick with me, but they weren't successful. In fact, they seemed very upset and went to go bother somebody else. But it was still rather annoying and off-putting. And why do things just keep getting into the school? I don't understand. Can we just why haven't anything been done about them yet?
Careful. If you continue saying that, Christ is going to burst a blood vessel.
You're right.
You can see his forehead vein just...
Yeah. It's still rather annoying.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Arianna and Garnet this is in like the common area where everyone's gathered. Are they just nosing the books right now, ignoring this?
Yeah, I'm just like,
Yep.
oh my god, what the fuck? And just reading some of the theory stuff.
Don't care
Exactly.
/ shut up.
Don't care, didn't ask.
Plus L, plus ratio,
Don't
plus...
Ratio.
Ratio.
It just looks over the books like, ratio.
Actually, that's the next class, numerology.
Oh yeah. Great.
Roll for ratio, boys.
I am going to have each of you roll 1d20 now that the pixie peril has temporarily passed to see where next the hand of fate shall fall.
Oh,
I'm gonna get anger horny again. Here we go, boys. That's a motif.
Please, someone
we call
dunk
that.
on my two.
And that one angle? Oh, no. Paul.
Nope.
Now one angle.
Good tank in there, Garnet.
Yep. Garnet's going to take this one for the team.
Oh, the heat's off. The
Okay.
heat's off.
All right. The next class, numerology, taught by Tana Ralnor, a gnome with very large glasses and just covered in beads of all kinds, like little tassels with beads tied onto them, just all over the place. And each one of them is used as a mini abacus, just uses these beads to keep track of various, that's 5 times today that a student fell asleep. I'm going to have to adjust my methods. Quan was expecting to love this class. And nobody can tell that Quan hates this class. Also, Quan is sitting like a couple rows over from you, Garnet, and every time that you see him, it just feels a little weird.
I just ignore him like he's just any other student.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
All
he talks to me.
All right, not letting it get under your skin. All right, and so Tana keeps track of almost everything with all these little abacus bead tassels just dangling off of her. You're not entirely sure what sort of outfit that is underneath all those beads. But meticulously keeps track of everything and is very excited to teach you about numerology and how mathematical ratios and equations are going to come into a lot of what you're doing. And this has everything to do with when you're going to make a spell glyph, and she magics a circle on there. Do you use a triangle or a 5-pointed shape? And what's the exact angle that you use? Because that angle is going to have a different ramification on the magical energies that are transmitted. And furthermore, this has applications in divination and just... the first day, she just kind of goes. That's the bad news. The good news is the syllabus seems much more methodically laid out. It's like on the first day, she just has to get this out of her system. But the syllabus is very step by step. Like why numbers matter in magic, how this applies to geometric shapes, how this applies to energy ratios. And she's a much better homework giver than she is instructor. Because when she's instructing, she's just all over the place talking over herself. But the assignments are very clearly laid out with steps that build on each other and carefully explain things. This is going to be a tough course. It's especially going to be tough, Garnet, because as you're sitting in the classroom next to an open window, a music drifts through that nobody else seems to be able to hear. Whimsical, a faint pipe. First off, how is Garnet reacting to this class in general? What's her initial take?
Just like putting 200% effort in, trying as hard as she can to succeed, and a little bit freaking out because it's obviously harder material, but excited by the challenge.
Okay. Roll a wisdom saving throw, please. 23. This charming melody comes through the window, but you stay entirely focused on your class. So somebody's practicing their music. Whatever. Who cares?
Does
I'm
it
gonna get myself a
sound like
second set of pipes.
Yeah, does it sound like the weird song that got Athalor that one time?
Same composer, different tune, if that makes sense. And with a 23, you'd be immediately aware of that.
So it's like an open window?
Mm-hmm.
I probably raise my hand and ask if I can close the window.
Yes, of course. She
It's cold.
mage hands and the door shuts itself. Thunk.
Do I still hear it?
Yes. Roll another wisdom saving throw with disadvantage, please. Courtesy of chat.
What?
12.
Garnet's about to frag our entire class.
What's that fucking melody?
All right.
Insert Sigma.
Garnet, are you magically immune to sleeping effects?
Scroll. Resistant to certain damage. Maybe not. I don't know if Asimars are.
Asimars are not
No.
innately. It'd be a Shadowcaster thing.
No. Not that I know of, no.
Okay. All right. The window closes and you just face plant into your books and start snoring. The teacher, Tana Ralnor, looks over at you and moves one bead on her students that fell asleep in my class. I'm going to need to adjust this. Everyone stares at Garnet, and we are going to cut to a break on that note. We will be back after this. Thank you, everybody.